Help me reach 7,000 subscribers. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps make the content better. She was standing at the sink, drying a plate that was already dry, staring through the window like the backyard owed her money. I set my keys on the counter and asked the plain question, "What's going on with you?" She didn't turn. "You're imagining things." Calm down. Cold. Precise. Like reading a receipt. I watched her place the same plate back in the rack for the third time. "I'm not imagining. You're here, but you're not. That's not nothing. It's fine," she answered, shaking water that wasn't there from her hands. "Don't start." I didn't raise my voice. "I'm not starting. I'm checking." "Then stop checking." She finally looked at me. "You hover. It's tiring." If I'd known where that tone was headed, I would have poured my coffee into the sink, grabbed an overnight bag, and saved myself a few months. Instead, I gave her the benefit of the doubt and the rest of my morning. I rinsed my mug and set it upside down. "All right, I'll back off. But we're not doing this chill silent roommate routine. If something's wrong, I expect straight conversation." She folded the towel too carefully. "Noted." "Noted," I repeated. "That's bureaucracy, not marriage." She angled past me, shoulder just not quite brushing mine. "I'm going to yoga after work. Don't wait up." There it was, distance with a schedule. I let it log in my head. Then I went to work, and I wrote 2 lines in my notebook. She withdrew. I didn't chase. That's where I started. We had a Saturday neighborhood cookout on the calendar, burgers on Dan's deck, kids in the cul-de-sac, the usual plastic chairs and paper plates. I figured neutral ground would help. She came out of the bedroom in a sundress that could have been a small flag of some country that never liked me much. She barely glanced at me. "You ready?" I asked, grabbing the cooler. "For what?" "Oh." She checked her phone. "We're going to Dan's?" I forgot. "It's been on the board all week." I reminded her and tapped the dry erase note on the fridge. "Then go," she said, scrolling. "I'm not in the mood for small talk." I set the cooler down. "We RSVP'd as a couple. And now you can be spontaneous and RSVP as one. I'll Uber later." "Maybe." Her tone had the thin smile of someone daring me to argue, like she'd get points for the spar. I didn't bite. I thought about what respecting myself looked like while respecting the event's host. Then I made a call. "New plan," I told her. "I'll stop by for an hour solo. I'll say you're busy. From now on, you handle your own social commitments. If you're in, you confirm. If you're out, you tell people directly. I'm done doing double work." She finally looked up. "Are you punishing me?" "Setting a standard," I replied, grabbing my wallet. "I'm not a cruise director. People invite us because they think we respect them enough to show up or decline. You want autonomy? You own your answers." She folded her arms. "So dramatic." "There's nothing dramatic about clear lines. Have a good evening." I paused at the door. "And the joint account? Use it for household bills only. Your discretionary stuff is yours. I'll cover my own. I'll email the breakdown." Her nostrils flared the slightest bit, like I'd asked her to run a marathon in winter. "You're making a spreadsheet because I skipped a cookout." "No," I said. "I'm making a spreadsheet because I'm not financing indifference." At Dan's, he handed me a beer and a paper plate. "Bro, where's Lauren?" "Busy," I answered, placing a burger on the bun. "Everything good?" His wife, Jen, asked it with that sing-song that hides a shovel. "Everything clear," I told her. She smirked. "That's a new adjective for married life. One I recommend." People drifted in and out of the conversation. I stuck to an hour. Before I left, Dan clapped me on the shoulder. "Sunday game still on?" "Absolutely," I replied. I didn't add that I'd changed the schedule on our shared calendar from family brunch to solo gym plus friends. Initiative isn't a speech. It's a step. When I got home, the house was quiet. Lauren had lit a candle and left music playing at a volume meant to be heard but not enjoyed. She was on the couch scrolling again. "How was the party?" she asked without looking up. "Tidy," I said. "I told Dan you were busy." "You love playing the competent one, don't you?" "I love telling the truth." She tossed her phone on the cushion. "I'll try to make the next one." "That's your call," I replied. "And your call to make, not mine to cover. The spreadsheet's in your email." She rolled her eyes. "You're exhausting." "It's funny," I said, grabbing a water. "You only say that when I stop doing things for you." The look she gave me ought to be listed under weather advisories. She turned the music up, which told me we were done for the night. I let it be. First line drawn, consequence felt. We went to sleep like co-tenants who happened to share a bed. Sunday morning at the gym, I hit the rower hard, not to punish my body, but to remind my brain it belonged to me. When I came home, there was a plate covered with foil on the counter and a sticky note. Left you breakfast. Sorry about last night. I appreciate you handling things. L. Warm eggs, toast, and the apology version of a sugar packet. I ate it, because I'm not an animal, and texted, thanks for breakfast. Calendar stands. The note didn't change my plan. That's what plans are for. The next week, her tone shifted from cold to clever. Snide became sport. It started on Tuesday at my friend Mark's garage. Mark runs an auto shop that smells like grease and coffee. Lauren had asked, last minute, to swing by so we could look at tires for her car, since apparently I became head of rubber upgrades by marrying her. Mark wiped his hands on a rag. You two trying to keep that sedan in one piece? Trying, I said. Budget's on the line. Lauren perched on a stool like it came with followers. Don't be cheap, she chimed. The last time you tried to be smart, with money, we ended up paying double later. Mark's eyebrows ticked up. He and I go back 20 years. He's seen me broke and building. He knows I'm not cheap. I'm deliberate. I looked at Lauren. Financial talk, I told her calmly, is private. We don't perform it for friends. She tilted her head. What? I'm being honest. Be private, I answered. Your tires, your choice within your budget. Give Mark your number. I'll step outside. So now you're embarrassed? She smiled at Mark. He hates when I tell the truth. Mark held up his hands. Hey, I just sell the tires. I nodded once. New rule, I said. I handle my purchases. You handle yours. I'm not co-signing judgment till Christmas. Mark, we'll call you later. I walked out. Outside, the fall air bit in that way that wakes you up better than caffeine. Lauren followed, irritation tapping out rhythm on her heels. You're making a scene, she accused. No, I replied, unlocking my truck. I'm stopping one. You're overreacting. Here's what I'm doing, I said. We keep our private matters private. Public respect is not up for debate. If you need a consultant, hire one. I'm not free labor you get to dunk on in front of people. So now you're fragile. Now I'm busy, I said, opening the door. I'll see you at home. That night she came into the office with a peace offering. Coffee just the way I like it, and a weak smile. Can we reset? She asked softly. I was harsh at the shop. I get snippy when I feel stressed. You can be stressed, I answered, taking the mug. You can't be reckless. Apology accepted. Rules stand. She nodded, lingered like she might touch my shoulder, decided not to, and left. The kindness was step one of the dance. Soft light, quiet tone, lower stakes. I logged it. I didn't change a thing. But small jabs kept multiplying. Thursday, she laughed at a joke at my expense when her friend Kelsey stopped by. Friday, she made a comment about my schedule obsession when I declined a last-minute dinner with her group. Seriously, she said, you act like you're the CEO of your calendar. I am, I replied. And the company is me. Kelsey snorted. He's kind of funny when he's not being serious. He's always serious, Lauren said. Like she was doing community outreach. I leaned against the doorway. I'm serious about a working marriage. The rest I can joke about. Kelsey raised her hands. I'm just the audience. Then I'll give you a headline, I told her. No one gets to talk down to me in my own house. That includes friends on drop-in hours. Kelsey blinked, looked at Lauren, and cleared her throat. Okay, I'm going to hit the road. When the door closed, Lauren hissed. Do you have to be so much? I have to be clear, I said. You keep acting like my boundaries are extra. They're exactly the size they need to be. Her eyes clicked cold again. Whatever. In the old days, whatever was the end of the night. Now it was the start of my next decision. I moved the guest bedding to the den and set up a second office. Not dramatic. Practical. I told her at dinner. I'm using the den for sleep and work for a while, I explained. We're not syncing well. Space will help. So you're punishing me again. Space isn't punishment. It's clarity. Do you realize how ridiculous you sound? She pointed to her plate. We're eating pasta in our own kitchen like nothing's wrong, and you're making this civil war. I'm making it civil, I corrected. The war part you keep on trying to start, and then calling me the general. She laughed without humor. Fine. Go play bachelor in your den. Fine, I replied. Play respectful or play alone. She slammed her fork down. You're insufferable. Noted, I said. Tomorrow, handle your own plans. I'm off the hook. She shook her head, angry that the hook wasn't in me anymore. The shift started to sharpen the week after. Late nights, unexplained absences, hair done at times of day that didn't have names in our house. I didn't pounce. I asked, once, like a grown man who knows the value of one clean question. It was a Wednesday. She was lacing shoes at the door at 8:15 p.m. Where are you headed this late? I asked, leaning on the doorframe. Out, she said. I need air. Okay. When should I expect you? She glanced at me like it was a trick. I don't know. Don't wait up. Text if you'll be late. She slipped her phone into her bag. Don't coach me. I'm not coaching, I replied. I'm communicating. You're managing, she snapped. I'm not a child. Never said you were, I said. I said send a text. She made a face. You don't own me. Correct, I said, reaching behind me for the deadbolt. And I don't owe you my sleep. If I don't hear from you by 11, I'll lock up. If you come after, use your key. Oh my God, she muttered, storming out. At 10:58, I got a 3-word update. Be back late. Cool. The next day, she was sugar sweet. She made dinner, laughed at my old stories, sat close on the couch. Too close, too suddenly. I watched the performative warmth and the look she gave me to make sure I was watching it too. I know I've been distant, she murmured. Work's been heavy. Hormones. Who knows? Thanks for being patient. I finished my water. I'm patient. I'm not blind. She stroked my arm, testing the line. Can we press restart tonight? I moved her hand back to her own lap. No. We can keep our standards and see how the month plays. She pouted. So that's a no. That's a boundary, I replied. I don't reward mixed signals. I respect patterns. She stood, smile evaporated. You are impossible. When impossible is what it takes to keep self-respect, I'll take impossible. 2 days later, she worked late again. Then Sunday night, she took a call in the hallway. Voice softened to a shade she hadn't used for me in weeks. She came back in with an excuse that tried to sound like an invitation. Kelsey wants me to meet her for a late dinner, she said, grabbing her bag. At 10 on a Sunday? I drummed my fingers on the table. That's new. Kelsey's dating a chef. He gets off late, she said too quickly. It's a whole thing. Don't make it a thing. Enjoy, I replied. She left. I waited 60 seconds, grabbed my jacket, and took the truck. I didn't speed. I didn't shake. I simply followed the route she always took when she said she needed silence. The long road past the stadium, down by the river where the restaurants stack up like dominoes. I parked across from a bistro. 10 minutes later, she walked in. Not with Kelsey, with a guy I'd never seen. Mid-30s, safe haircut, a hand on her back that lingered. They took a corner table, candle between them. I watched him lean in like he owned the airspace. She touched his wrist like it was a habit. I didn't make a scene. I made a record. 2 photos from the sidewalk with a clean line of sight through the glass. Greeting with an embrace that was not friend standard. Laughter with too much shoulder touching to be first time. A check they signed together after plate sat empty too long. I took one more shot in the parking lot when he opened her door, his hand casual at the small of her back, her smile too bright for just in case we're spotted. They drove to a pocket neighborhood 10 minutes away. He pulled into a driveway. She got out like she'd done it before. They walked to the door like an old routine and disappeared inside. Lights on, then off. I took one last photo of the house number with their silhouettes, already gone. I drove home. I made tea. I slept in the den because that's where people who see what they see go when they're done negotiating with ghosts. Morning, she breezed into the kitchen humming. She kissed the air 2 inches from my cheek. Morning, she chirped. Morning, I answered, stirring my tea. You're quiet, she observed. Rested, I said. I'm making changes, by the way. I've moved most of my direct deposits to my separate account. The joint will cover the mortgage and utilities as agreed. After that, do your own. She frowned. Since when do you make decisions without me? Since I learned my brain still works just fine on its own, I replied, setting my mug down. Also, I'll be using the guest room permanently. I'll handle my meals. You handle yours. We can coordinate the house calendar for maintenance only. Her jaw flexed. This is insane. This is order, I corrected. If you'd like communication, use the shared board. If you need a ride, call a car. If you want to know where I am, check the calendar. I won't be asking where you are. Her eyes narrowed. Now you're playing games. No, I said. Games have rules that change mid-play. I don't. That afternoon, I called my attorney. Paperwork isn't theater, it's math. I didn't announce it, because announcements are for grand openings. I filed, and then I lived like a man who had. Living like roommates is simple if you have the stomach for boredom. She tried Act 2 of the performance, over the top warm. She brought me coffee every morning for 3 days. On day 4, she left a note suggesting a beach weekend to reconnect, as if connection were a hotel amenity you could request at the front desk. Not interested, I wrote below. Calendar is full. That night at dinner, she tried a different angle, support. She asked about my job in detail for the first time in months, nodded at the right places, made impressed noises. It was an uncanny valley version of caring. I'm proud of you, she said, reaching for my hand. You work so hard. I do, I said, not taking her hand. I also don't need praise to do it. Why are you like this? She whispered, tears showing up right on cue. Because your timing's terrible, I answered. Because the last time I asked you where you were, you said I was managing you. Because I'm good at pattern recognition. Because you made choices. What choices? She snapped, tears gone. Not my business anymore, I said. That's the point. She stared, and in that stare was a small panic. The realization that whatever grip she thought she had was slipping, and I wasn't reaching back to save it. 2 nights later, she put on that dress again, the flag of the hostile nation, and announced she needed headspace. What time should I expect you? I asked, clearing my dish. She grabbed her clutch. Don't expect me at all. Copy, I said, rinsing my glass. Door locks at 11. At 9:30, I looked at the photos once to remind myself I wasn't crazy. I closed the file and didn't open it again. At 10:45, I set the alarm and the deadbolt. At 11:16, my phone lit up with a call from her. I let it ring out. A text followed, don't call me. I need time alone. I typed back, didn't know solitude has a male name. 15 minutes later, I heard tires, a door slam, hurried steps. The knob rattled. The key turned. She came in fast, face open with something new, fear, or maybe just the smell of control burning. She rushed down the hall to the bedroom and froze in the doorway. Her suitcase was by the wall, full. A couple boxes stacked neatly. On the dresser sat a manila folder with her name on it. Paperwork signed. Dates clean. Instructions simple. She spun on me in the hall. What does this even mean? Why are my things out here? Answers on the dresser, I said. Take it, your things, and go. This is insane, she spat. What are you doing? I leaned against the frame. Calm, not cruel. I'm ending a situation that ended itself weeks ago. I'm just doing the paperwork and moving the boxes. You're throwing me out? Her voice went high, indignation wearing a mask. I'm asking you to leave my house, I answered steady. Because you made a new schedule and forgot to send me the invite. She looked from the suitcase to the folder as if both were traps. You can't do this to me. I already did, I said. Doors open. So is the street. You're going to regret this, she hissed. No, I said. I regret waiting this long. She grabbed the folder, skimmed the first page, and then tossed her hair like a curtain closing. You're not the man I thought you were. You didn't think, I replied. You counted. Her chin lifted the way people lift it when they want height to substitute for weight. She pulled the suitcase handle, bumped it over the threshold, and headed outside like a queen who missed the part where the castle isn't hers. Watching her take what she could carry while leaving what she couldn't was the most honest thing we'd done in months. She paused on the porch. You'll crawl back, she said, voice flat. I don't crawl, I told her. I build. She let out a short, ugly laugh, walked to her car, and drove off. The house got quiet in an honest way for the first time in a year. I put the extra boxes in the hall. I didn't text anyone. I turned off the porch light and slept without setting an alarm. The week after she left, there were calls I didn't take, then a long email from a person who signs things for a living. I answered it with 3 attachments. The photos of her with the man at the restaurant, the shot of the house number, and a simple ledger of our finances showing who paid what during the marriage. No speeches, no drama, just dates and numbers. The result came back like a weather report, straightforward, hardly personal. The house stayed mine. The savings stayed where I put them. She didn't get the things she thought were automatic. Apparently, comfort is an expense line, not a birthright. Word filtered back through mutuals that she was furious. I added that data to the file in my head labeled, "Not my problem." Friends reached out, each in their own voice. Mark dropped a text. "Heard. Proud of you. Coffee on me." Dan invited me over to throw burgers and not talk. Kelsey sent a very neutral, "Hope you're okay," that read like someone making sure the bridges weren't on fire near her shoes. I told them I was fine because fine means moving forward when you have a plan. I sold the second TV we never watched and turned the den into a home gym with a squat rack and a speaker that didn't play low-key sadness. I moved the old dining table to the garage and built a workbench. I swapped the living room rug for one I actually liked. None of it was therapy. It was design. On Saturdays, I drove out early to the trails, walked with a thermos, and watched the sun do its job without asking me how I felt about it. On Sundays, I watched the game at Dan's, stayed for one burger, left before the talk got slow. Mark invited me to a cookout. I brought my own cooler and stayed until the jokes turned into stories and the stories turned into truths. Women showed up in that respectful way that decent people show up, through friends, at work events, at the gym, a chat at the hardware store over which drill bit actually gets the job done. I didn't campaign. I had conversations. Some went well, some faded. 2 dates stood out. One with a teacher who loved road trips. One with a nurse who had the calm of a person who's seen more than Twitter. I kept it honest. No promises. No pitch. Just a man who knows how to leave a situation that gets expensive in ways that don't show up on bills. One night a month later, I sat on the porch with Mark, watching the quiet. He handed me a soda, the kind we used to drink on the hood of old cars when we had more time than sense. "You look lighter," he said. I stopped pretending. I answered. "That'll do it." I spent a year explaining. "It took a week of decisions," I said. "There's a lesson in there." He chuckled. "You sound like my grandfather." He must have been a genius. "Grumpy genius," he corrected. "Married 3 times. "I'm aiming for twice," I replied. "Second one's going to be with someone who knows that respect is the hometown, not a vacation spot." He raised his can. "To hometowns." We clinked. The porch light buzzed like it always had. For once it didn't bother me. I won't romanticize the rest. Sometimes the house still feels too quiet. Sometimes I reach for a second plate out of habit. Sometimes I catch myself checking the clock at 10:45 p.m., and then I laugh at the old muscle memory of waiting for a door that opens on its own schedule. But mostly I'm busy building work, health, friendships, a life that doesn't ask permission to be mine. As for her, I heard through mutuals that she tried a big push, calls, messages, a few threats dressed like negotiations, when she realized the outcome wasn't bending. That ended when she figured out my patience wasn't a resource she could tap anymore. She moved in with a friend for a while, then somewhere cheaper. That's not a victory lap, it's a status update. She made bets on comfort that didn't pay off. I made investments in clarity. One of those holds value. The line people like to ask is whether I'd do anything different. Sure, I'd draw the line sooner. I'd listen to what her silence was saying before her words started trying to rewrite it. I'd stop covering for people who want the benefits of my effort with none of the cost of respect. The last time she texted, which I didn't answer, she wrote, "You act like this was easy for you." I looked at it for a second and then put my phone face down. Nothing about this was easy. It was simple. These days I wake up early, lift, and get to work before the traffic. I keep my weekends clean. I see my friends. I date like a grown man, slowly, clearly, without pretending the past didn't teach me anything. I don't hunt for perfect. I look for respect and grant it in return. I'm not in a hurry. That's the point. If love shows up, it'll find the door unlocked at a reasonable hour. It'll see the calendar with room on it because I made room, not because someone demanded it. And it'll know what it's walking into. A house where the lights go off and on for the reasons they're supposed to, and where the person paying the bill doesn't apologize for expecting basic decency. That's the story. That's the standard. And if you're wondering how it felt when she stood on the porch that last night and tried to make her tone into law again, I'll tell you the good part. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt done, which is better, because done is quiet, and quiet is where men like me get real work done.